The Australian Jewish community, and well, to be honest, plenty of others, have reacted with outrage following news that a Sydney mosque is planning to commemorate the deaths of 3 Hezbollah fighters killed by the Israeli army. For more, I'm joined by Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Paterson. James, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Should the Hezbollah fighters be recognised in a Sydney mosque?
It's great to be with you, Erin. Look, I do understand that Australian Palestinians and their supporters are concerned and anxious about their friends and family in the Gaza Strip and elsewhere. But let's be really clear about this. It is utterly unacceptable and potentially unlawful to celebrate any terrorist or terrorist organisation. Both Hamas and Hezbollah are listed in their entirety as terrorist organisations, thanks to a decision taken by the previous government. And while rhetorical support probably wouldn't meet the legal threshold alone for engaging in support of a terrorist organisation, anything which amounts to in any way material support, including encouraging people to go and fight, recruiting them in any way, fundraising for them or supporting them in a material way, could fall afoul of the criminal code, and there are very serious penalties for that.
Pressure continues to build for Anthony Albanese to visit Israel on his way to the United States. Now today, late this afternoon, the PM definitively rolling it out. Take a listen.
I have no plans to visit the Middle East, and I have, in terms of the security agencies as well, there's no disagreement from the position that I've taken.
Now, you'll remember, James, he did this with Ukraine as well for security reasons and then ended up visiting Ukraine. Do you think that might happen here with Israel? And if it doesn't, is it the wrong move?
Well, I really hope the Prime Minister is able to visit Israel. The US President has done so, the UK Prime Minister has done so, the German Chancellor has done so. Israel is a very close friend and ally of Australia, and it would be appropriate for him to go there. And we have real interests in the region, in particular in making sure that this conflict doesn't escalate and doesn't widen, and that Hezbollah and Iran don't enter into this fight. So there's very good reason for him to go. I'd be disappointed if he doesn't even make an effort to go. And I also note that the Prime Minister says he doesn't talk about security advice, except when it suits him and except when it's convenient for him to do so. And to use our intelligence agencies as a shield for his decision not to go, I think would reflect very badly on him.
How is it safe and obviously deemed safe enough for the US President to go and the UK Prime Minister, but not by our own intelligence, admittedly, for our Prime Minister to go?
Well, I haven't been briefed on it, but I find it hard to believe that the US President, who is the most attractive terrorist target in the world, can safely do so, but an Australian Prime Minister could not. The reality is we are much lower profile on these issues, and I'm sure there's a way, if he wanted it to be done, it could be done, just as we saw with Ukraine. I mean, he said it couldn't be done with Ukraine until he did go into Ukraine, and I think it's just a question of a desire and a will to do so.
His government is also facing deep division over its response to the Middle East. Does the Prime Minister need to call out his own, or is it okay to have differences of opinion when it comes to this topic?
I know and like and respect both Ed Husic and Anne Ali, and I know they're sincere in their views about this, but governments don't get to have multiple foreign policies. They just have one foreign policy, and it's articulated by the Foreign Minister and the Prime Minister. And any member of the Cabinet or the Ministry who doesn't support the foreign policy of the Australian government obviously is in a very difficult position with their continued membership of the Cabinet. You don't get to freelance on something as sensitive and important as this. You have to support the government's policy, and if you can't support the government's policy, well, the tradition in the Westminster system is that you should resign from the Cabinet. So I really do hope that the Albanese government is able to get on one page when it comes to this. We can't afford to have people running their own lines on foreign policy here and there.
It's going to be difficult for him to manage on a state level as well. Chris Minns has the same issue, so I think it will only continue and get increasingly difficult for them. James, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Erin.